I always wanted to be a hustler. And I just steal, rob, and do all kind of little things.
For 10 years, basically, I shot heroin, hung out with skinheads, and went in and out of jail.
I've caught like armed robbery. I've had assault with great bodily injuries, and I've shot, a couple people, and stuff like,
Had a couple-year addiction going, and just started robbing banks.
90% of all the homicides in the United States are done by men, to men. And out of the remaining 10%, 90% of those are done by men, to women and children.
Because under conditions of patriarchy, males are humiliated for not being violent, and they can wipe out their humiliation by being violent.
And the risk of not being a man is very high among peers. You get called sissy, faggot, all of the homophobic terms, softy, all these kinds of put-downs, as if the very worst thing to be for a man is a woman.
George 13 David 585.
George 13 David Closure 585.
Push and Baker.
Copy station assignment on a 910 at 451 and 104. Adam 3, I need somebody to go to Gary and Leavenworth to help my partner control the 800.
3 out of 3 is requesting a unit to go to Gary and Leavenworth and back up her partner.
All units, the dog is going in.
3 out of 3, the dog.
One program whose purpose is to deconstruct what they call the male role belief system has played a major role in helping these violent inmates in the San Francisco jails to stop being violent.
Can we get some examples? What's the male role belief system you learned?
Boys not punks. Go fight back.
Yeah.
Don't be no sissy.
Let's get some other examples. What about you?
Don't take nothing from nobody.
Yeah. George?
Boys don't cry.
Taja?
Take it like a man.
Women are supposed to do what I say,
Why?
because I'm a man.
In the county jail, the men we're dealing with are not murderers. And I guess what we're hoping we'll do here in the county jail is to interrupt a process that might escalate into homicide or murder.
One of the striking concepts is the concept of fatal peril.
And that is the moment that precedes every violent incident. And when it happens when someone challenges your authority, your whole sense of yourself as the male role authority, your hands come up. It's a moment of shock. And it's a signal for the guys at that moment that they're now going to move into a violent incident.
When they experience that fatal peril, they immediately start calling on an inner hitman. You know what a hitman is, like the mafia hires a hitman to kill somebody or exercise violence for them. But what this program teaches everybody is that we all have a hitman within ourselves. It's not our real self. It's sort of like a helper that we can call on to exert the violence that will be necessary to protect our threatened self-image as a man.
So where does this work begin, Terry?
Fatal Peril.
Mm-hmm. What is fatal peril?
A moment of shock.
It's a moment of shock. Why is it a moment of shock?
It's like when my mirror belief system breaks down.
Mm-hmm. So who is
Not
that
physically.
moment really deadly to?
My hitman, my
It's deadly
image.
to your image, man.
My
It's not deadly to Terry yet.
Yeah.
But in that moment, it feels like my image dying, right?
Yeah.
And if my image dies, I don't have anything left, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know who I am. As a young kid, I locked myself up in a box. And I'm not in touch with who I really am because I've invested all my life into this image. So when somebody comes up and breaks down that image, I'm afraid, man.
Yeah.
My name is Barry. The name of my hitman is whoremongering, shot-calling convict dope fiend. My authentic self is the nicest person you'll ever meet. And I remember I stuffed myself away because little Barry liked people, didn't want to fight, just wanted to, be accepted. And there was no room for that little child anymore. I had to stand up and be a man, and, and so it was really, and that was just really, because it was the incident that occurred. It was like I got beat up at school, and I come home crying, and my father whipped me with a razor strap afterwards. I said, boy, you're going to go back out there because we're not going to have no punks in this house. And that was like, that's when I put myself away, and I let this other person out, or that image out, the hitman out. And since 5 years old, I've been running on my hitman.
When boys are raised to be steered away from their feelings and to measure everything they do on this dimension of weakness to strength, and by the age of 8 or 9, that's what a boy's doing. Everything he does or says is measured on this dimension. Am I going to look weak or am I going to look strong?
So we got a world full of men that are trained to be superior. What do you think's going to happen?
Confusion.
Confusion. Yeah. Violence, man. There's going to be a lot of killing, like there is today, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I call the setup. It's a setup. The male role belief system is a setup.
Violence doesn't happen as an instinct. It doesn't just arise spontaneously. People are taught to be violent. Virtually every one of these violent offenders, if you sit down and talk with them, will describe how their father or their mother or both taught them that if they didn't fight back when they were attacked, they were wimps or sissies, or they'd get beaten up themselves by their father, or in some cases ridiculed by a mother for not being masculine enough.
So right from the start, I think that men's socialization is a process of teaching you how not to be yourself and how to be this caricature of a superpower, Superman caricature, who feels nothing, experiences nothing, and takes all the risks and finishes up on top. And if you're not doing that, you're not a man.
I had my own version of what it was to be a man, and it was very much, like a James Cagney movie or something, It has like basically stuck in a cops and robbers role, but I was a 45-year-old man.
That guy who I thought I was, that dope fiend convict, lived in my head for 20 years, man. And it was a movie. It was a role I was playing most of my life.
My name is George. Been here 25 weeks. My hitman is a selfish, manipulating, know-it-all. I did have a fatal peril Friday. Big one. And what happened was I called my kids, and I look forward to talking to my kids once a week. And get yourself relief. And towards the end of the phone call, there was only a few minutes left, she asked me a question that put me in fatal peril. She asked me if I was in jail. It was hard for me to answer that honestly. She's only 6 years old. And when the phone hung up, she was crying, and I was just, again, I didn't know how to handle that. How do I feel? I guess I feel sad. What do I need from the group? Just understanding and support.
Got my support. May I give you some feedback, George?
Sure.
I've noticed that whenever I spend too much time thinking about what I should be doing and what I need to be doing for other people on the outside, it takes me off the focus of what I really do have ability to change, which is myself, which is my mind, my behavior. And so the thing that I've found that gives me fulfillment is to really realize that the best thing I can do for those on the outside is to do for myself while I'm here. And everything else is going to take its course.
Can I get an agreement from you? If you need somebody to talk to, or if you need anything I can help you with, I'm here to help you with it. Just come and talk to me anytime. I'll support that.
Support that. About children, they speak the truth and how they feel. So like I said, the best I can tell you is to learn and feel yourself. Because like I said, I went through it. It made me stronger, and it gave me some insight on where I should be.
I think the important thing for me was the fact that I was able to put my guard down. You figure that'd be something you don't normally able to do. At least I wasn't able to do out on the streets. Much less be able to do something like that in jail, where you can put your guard down and just kind of relax. And
we were sitting there, one day we were sitting there and we was like having a little talk and stuff. And then Leo asked, he says, how do y'all feel sometimes what you did? And each one of us started talking about it. And I got to talking about mine and stuff, and it just started, and not even thinking, tears just running down my eyes. And I got up and I walked away. And then Leo came over, he says, what you walk away for? I said, well, I didn't want, I was still sort of new there. I said, I didn't want the guys to start making fun of me. He said, man, they ain't making fun of you. They really give me all the support. So they came over and started patting me on the back and everything. And like, I felt like a big used baby in a sense, but it felt really good. I mean, really good.
I didn't want to be there. I did not want to be in the program. I thought it was a bunch of bullshit. And I'd been in 12-step program before, and it never helped me. And to be honest with you, they stuck me. The minute I walked into the dorm, the atmosphere was so quiet and so mellow. I felt like I just walked into a mental hospital where they were basket weaving. And I was like thinking to myself, what kind of fucking jail did they put me in now? They got me in the psycho ward or in the protective custody. I'm used to hardcore jail settings. I'm not used to therapy. How the fuck can you do therapy inside of a jail, And I want them to roll my stuff up again. It's like, send me back to the tiers where I can do my time right? Because this is like, it isn't going to work for me. And some of the other men in the pod in the dorm at that time said, check it out and make up your own mind. And I thought I had enough patience to do that. So Eric, is this your first week?
What?
Is this your first week here in the class?
Yeah.
But what I need for you today is just to listen, man. Can I get that agreement with you that you won't have any more conversation with Marlon right now?
I don't know, man. I don't even know if I want to be in this class, man. You just like really putting me off
so
right now.
So go with me on this one.
Waiting to see what you guys...
this program is for men that know that they have a problem with violence and that they're willing to stop it, Eric. So Eric, the intervention I'm doing with you right now is I've had to stop you twice.
First of all, you're too close, man. You got to give me at least 5 feet, you know what I'm saying?
I don't really, actually I don't, okay? I'm not going to hurt you, can I assure you that?
I don't
I'm not
feel
here to
comfortable.
hurt you, okay?
I don't feel comfortable you standing that close to me, man. Man, I live in a dangerous society, right? And people stand up that close, it means something else.
Can I give you my experience?
Of what?
Of my first week in class, because guess what? I'm not just a teacher here. I'm a man who has been through this program. I've been at week 1.
Oh, you have?
Oh, yeah. I was looking at 8 years.
All of our facilitators in Man Alive are graduates of the program themselves. We've all been violent men, and we have a training program where we use the technique of role-playing, where we can work with an actual situation that we know is going to occur in the future.
So don't stop me when I'm...
but you're drilling me now, right? I said yeah.
So Eric, I'm not going to argue with you. At this point, I need for you to leave.
That's cool,
Go
man.
back to your PO.
I ain't gonna, this is
Make sure you stop at your POs,
BS class
okay?
anyway, man. This is a bunch of crap.
Yep.
Man, you guys are working me, man.
Hey, man. Well, the thing is that, check this out, man. It does happen. This is first stage, man. It's first stage, right? You get guys that don't want to be here, right? That are court mandated to be here. And, we'll set up the worst scenario to happen right here in the class, because eventually, one of these days, it'll probably happen, right? It has happened to me, and it has happened to me more than one time.
First thing he said was, I don't know if I want to be here. all right? And right then, I'd have sent him back to his probation officer until he was ready to be here. And one thing that really made me afraid is when Eric said, you need to give me 5 feet, and you said, no, I don't have to.
See, the only reason why I would come close to somebody is to check how close I can get, right? But not to stay there. I'd find out how close I can get to where, okay, he feels uncomfortable, let me step back, right? And make myself safe.
Man, all in all, good work, man.
I was able to look back in my life and notice that every time I was getting arrested, I was going to worse and worse places. From, you know, the honor farm to medium security, getting in a race right there, to maximum security. From maximum security, moving to the downtown gang unit jail, getting in fights there, going to the hole, until I finally ended up in the mini-max in the whole county, where I had a two-man cell locked down for 23 hours a day, and my cellie was melting down a plastic cup over a roll of toilet paper lit on fire for me to stab this guy across the way so I could jump into his prison gang. And for me, a lot of years, my neighborhood was the jails. That was my community. I did a lot of time. And so I feel really grateful, I guess, to be able to come in and do this work.
My name is Charles. I've been here 16 weeks. Hitman is a homicidal thug. How I feel out of the 8, I'm content. Woke up this morning in a good mood. What I need from the group is support. Keep learning. Got them checked in.
I get out this week, and I feel happy too because before I don't know myself, who I am. But since I attend this program, I found myself. I found myself who I am because of this program. I got a lot of, I get some knowledge. And then I afraid to, because I ain't gonna attend to the program in the outside, like anger, alcoholic, drugs, and psychology counseling. I hope that God will help me for that, because I don't wanna come back here anymore.
I feel sad because you're leaving. I really hate to see you leave, but I also feel happy because you're going to be facing the real world out there, be with your family and stuff. Can I ask you a clarifying question?
Yeah, sure.
Are you going to do a 52 weeks program?
Yeah.
Can I get an agreement? Stay focused with the program. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, I make that agreement.
Thank you.
The reality about the situation in county jails and in most prisons is that overwhelming majority of people are getting out. 100% of the folks are getting out in our custody, and in prisons, I believe it's close to 90+% who are getting out into your community and my community.
There was a famous conservative commentator who once said, you know, a thug in prison can't shoot your sister. Well, this is true. This is true. But what happens when the thug in prison then comes out? And one of the things we forgot, and we literally, it's very peculiar how we do this, but we literally seem to have forgotten, there's some kind of collective amnesia here. We forgot that most of these people are coming out.
I've always been of the opinion that the traditional approach to jailing and incarceration doesn't really work. That's why we have a 70% or higher recidivism rate. That would suggest to me that it fails. And so as sheriff, I've always wanted to do different. I want to do better than that and try things that weren't traditionally done in jails and prisons, first of all. Second of all, I try to let everyone know that there's a perspective they should keep, and that is that people in jail get out of jail and come back into the community.
So we can have disagreement and discussion about should we have a chain gang or should we not. What we know for sure is that folks are getting out, and we find, based on logic and based on our preliminary findings and our evaluation, is that violence is learned and it could be unlearned.
Our research compared the rearrest rates for violent crimes between two groups of violent inmates, during the first year after their release. Both groups were identical in terms of ethnic group, prior criminal history, age, and so on. What we discovered was that the group that had participated in this program for at least 4 months had a rearrest rate for violent crimes that was 80% lower than the other group.
You know, when I was in my addiction, I would do, 20 felonies a day, and 10 of them would have immediate violent victims to them, where I was just taking people's stuff, So part of my recovery is selfish, I feel really good about having 4 years clean, but I don't know how many 10,000 victims there aren't in the world today because I'm not participating in that other behavior.
The name of my hitman is frustrated, impatient pimp. Well, I was picked up for a pimping and pandering, and I had a probation violation. Next thing we're going to be doing is the feedback process. So if everybody gets their narratives out so we can have the guidelines. My mother died when I was young, and my father didn't want me in his life too much. And, growing up through the different things I have, I was really probably hard to keep around also.
Is what I'm saying is controlling or nurturing is something good.
So what place does that have in our feedback process?
We think about it before we say it.
And it's difficult to untrain myself from that negativity and that behavior and to retrain myself. But really, I think it takes the willingness, and I think it takes just the repetition and the proper skills.
People may hear this and say, oh, this is a bunch of, coddling prisoners, and they get more education than my child gets. And we're not in the business whatsoever of coddling prisoners. Coddling prisoners, to me, is letting them sleep all day, lift weights, watch Woody Woodpecker all night, and figure out how to get over each other and the staff. That, to me, is coddling and insulting. It's insulting to us as a law enforcement agency. It's insulting to the taxpayers who are paying a lot of money to basically promote a monster factory.
We have 300 violent sex offenders a month being let out of California state prisons alone. Virtually none of those people have had serious treatment for their problems, which are often very severe problems, during the time that we had them. So they're back out on our streets. And I don't know about you, but that frightens me.
If you had to guess, why do you think the law wants you to stay away from your victims right now?
Because I'm afraid to him, to her.
What's that?
I'm afraid to her.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're dangerous to her, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Do you believe that you're dangerous to her?
Yeah.
Okay. But what about harming her again? What about hurting her again? Do you believe that you can do that?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I am a man.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're a violent man.
Yeah.
Like the rest of us,
A
right?
violent man. That's true.
Early in your work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm so glad because God, he put me here so that I can learn some,
Yeah. Correcto. Can I remind you that it's also your violence that put you here in this program too? That it's your actions that put you here in this program too, right? It's your actions that got you arrested.
Yeah.
It's got your actions that got you placed in jail, and because of your record of violence, you were classified into this program too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the restraining order is there to keep your partner safe, and it's also there to give you an opportunity to do work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Thank you for that.
Support that.
Thank you.
Support that.
Man, you never told me you was going home, man. I'm really glad for you, man. I hope you don't come back here, though. Please. And can you make me agree? You gonna go to some meetings?
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And right now, I could be in prison right now, or be locked up in one of the tiers in San Bruno, or on the 7th floor here, where I'll be fighting for my life. And right now, I like it where I'm at because I'm learning something out of it.
A year is the mandate, right? That's what the court told you? What happens for the rest of your life, though? What happens after the first year?
Yeah, continue.
What's that?
Continue on
What
the
does
good
that
work.
mean?
Yeah, continue to good work. Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask you to make an addendum to that agreement, and that is to continue to do that
Yes.
after your court mandate is up,
Yeah.
after your 52 weeks mandate is finished, to continue doing that, to stay my friend for forever, as long as we can possibly know each other.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Support that.
Support that.
agreement.
You know, I didn't really want to come over here. It had the reputation of being a love jail at the time. However, with RSVP, you know, I've heard a lot of, I've talked to a lot of inmates just on how do you really feel about this? And a lot of them, said, hey, this is the first program that actually reached me.
What is amazing is how quickly these men get the point and are actually grateful that someone has helped them to understand what's going on.
The first time I was in one of those classes and saw somebody explain kind of the cycle of violence, I was like, gosh, somebody has been inside my head. They've took a snapshot of my brain in there. It's X-ray or something.
They mandated me to the RSVP program. I've been in the program for like a week and a half now. And within that week and a half, it's really touched me in some bases. Touched me here and here. Because we're more like a community and we deal with each other's feelings and emotions, even though we're men. I'm a violent man,
We watched a couple of movies and it was quiet and everybody got along pretty good. That's a good fatal
How was
peril.
that a fatal peril for you?
We enjoyed the movie.
Yeah. So how was that a fatal peril, though? That's what I want to know.
Moment of shock.
It's a moment of shock.
Moment of shock.
What's another word for shock, guys? What is it? Fear.
Fear.
Right? So how did that scare you, being able to sit and enjoy a movie and have peace and storm? Is it a shock? Is it doesn't happen very much?
It doesn't happen wrong.
Okay. That's why we do things to sabotage the peace in our lives, because peace can be kind of scary when you spend your whole life living in drama. And that's our role, right? Our roles in life are to play into the drama. That's our hitman role anyway, right? So it can be pretty scary to just have kind of a flat, peaceful experience and not be familiar with it, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the Victim Impact Day, which for the new guys, this is a victim-driven program, or survivors of violence. And the people that are coming in here, and they're in this jail with a bunch of violent men. So 100% undivided attention means that we give full focus.
I'd like for you to meet my daughter and my grandson, Nancy and Jesse. And I'm going to pass the picture around so all of you can get a little more closely acquainted with them while I continue to tell my story. It's almost as if I just did it yesterday. I can recall walking over to the stove, turning the burners off and saying, "Come on, we're going to Nancy's now." Something's wrong. When we got there, of course, it's 5:30. It's very cold. Jack put his key in the lock, and as he started to open the door, we could see two people lying on the living room floor. And it looked as though they were watching television. A little TV was playing. Jack stepped over them, touched Nancy's elbow, said to me, "She's gone." And Jesse was gone too. How many of you have lost a loved one to murder? Every one of you know how I feel. I'm sure you do. Of course, after I told Mary that her sister and her baby nephew were dead, her scream still rings in my ears. The only thing I could do is everybody I talked to, "Did you hear about my grandson and my daughter? Did you hear what happened to my daughter and my little baby? Did you hear what happened to my daughter?" Couldn't hold a job, couldn't concentrate. I could drink a lot, though. Good old vodka helps a lot in a case like that. The young man they apprehended, his name is Richard. To clarify right here, we had learned Nancy had a boyfriend. His name is Paul. It seems that Paul might have been going to work on Nancy's car, so he had brought his tool chest. And it seems that when he would get to Concord, he would go to the video arcade and play video games until she came home from work. That's where he met this Richard person. His own testimony said that when he came to Nancy's apartment, knocked at the door, Nancy opened the door and had little Jesse by the hand. She allowed him to come in, welcomed him in. She took little Jesse and went back to the bedroom and went to bed. About that time, Richard saw the tool chest sitting there. Richard went to Nancy's kitchen, got the butcher knife, and when Paul wasn't looking, he stabbed him. The first wound inflicted to Paul was fatal. It killed him. But then Richard decided to stab him 22 more times just to make sure. That was the first place where Richard could have taken the tool chest and gone 5 feet out the door of that little apartment. But something happened to stop him. Jesse must have awakened and wanted a bottle. Nancy came out of the bedroom. He attacked her from the back first. Nancy put up a whale of a fight for her life. She had stab wounds all over her body. Nancy was stabbed 70 times before she finally bled to death. Again, Richard could have taken that tool chest and gone out the front door and been on his way. But something else stopped him this time. This time, a little boy standing in his crib, crying and waiting for his mommy. Richard went back to the bedroom, found that little boy, slapped him. His little face was all bruised. When slapping him didn't make him shut up, Richard picked the child up, carried him over to the bedroom door, threw him down on the floor, and stabbed him 56 times, breaking the knife off in the floor beneath his body. And then that wasn't enough. He picked him up and threw him back across the room into his crib. Gentlemen, Richard took more than 3 lives that night. My husband has never cried because of the loss of Nancy and Jesse. And because he's stuffed all of this pain, and he's held it down and pushed it down, this year he has had all kinds of surgeries and all kinds of health problems. My coming here and talking to you allows me to take another little piece of it and put it aside. And for that, I thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for hearing my story and for sharing my story.
I haven't cried as many times, like I say, my 50 years of life. I don't cry more times these 25 weeks.
Victim impact, when Jean O'Hara came in and started telling her story about her daughter being murdered and her grandson stabbed to death on the floor, and you feel her emotions coming just off of her like waves, like vibes that just kind of, eventually it just breaks your heart.
I want to just thank you. I really don't have no questions. I just want to thank you for coming in and sharing it. And I could just pray for you. Just thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Gene. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for sharing your painful experience with us. I was just wondering if drugs played a role in Richard's behavior.
I know there's a lot of people in here for recovery also, So I get a little afraid when I hear, was drugs part of the, the problem? Because again, what we learn here in the program is that making that decision to use the drugs in the first place is a violence to yourself. And when we violate ourselves, it's easier to violate other people. Okay, so I just want to make it really clear that that is a really strong position in the program, not to blame drug and alcohol for your violence. Okay?
Eva, how's your daughter healing now?
Our other daughter, she went into denial. And for about 5 years, didn't happen. Didn't see it. Don't want to know about it. And one day she came out with her 2 little girls. All of a sudden, she took the 2 little girls and said, I'm going to go to the grocery store. About an hour later, she came back. Her eyes were all red. She didn't say a word, except the youngest of the little girls is a blabbermouth. You know what those little girls are like. And she came running into me and she said, Grandma, guess what? Mom and took us up to that big high hill. And it's not very far from your house. And Mama took us up there. And guess what? Mama's got a sister up there. And guess what? She's got a little baby too. But we can't see them because they're underneath the ground. Grandma had a whole time hanging on to that one. But she doesn't do that so much anymore. It's just that we went up on the hill again, Grandma.
It's not just a crime being done to the state. A crime was done to a human being. And it's about bringing human beings back into the system and giving voice to victims who have been lost in the system.
Paul's father apparently thought of committing suicide to get away from his pain. Fortunately, he called the Parents of Murdered Children chapter leader in Oakland and talked to her. She got a hold of me as soon as she could get him off the line, called me and said, Jean, call this man, talk to him quick because I think he's going to commit suicide. I called the number and started to talk to this gentleman, not knowing who I was talking to. And all of a sudden, this man is telling me the story of the murder of my daughter and grandson. And I said, are you Paul's father? And he said, yes. How did you know? I said, because you're talking to Nancy's mom. I said, by the way, how is your wife? He said, she drank herself to death 2 years ago. Another life was taken. Paul had 2 sisters, and according to that dad, those 2 sisters are also having very traumatic lives. It just is a chain reaction. It goes from one to another. We felt that it would all be over with, and then we could go back to our lives. And once we went back to our lives, it would all go away. And it has not. And now we know that it never will.
So there's no minimization, no blaming, denial, and collusion. Watch justifying your behavior. Okay? You'll feel it. You'll be able to feel it in your body, okay, when you start to do this stuff.
Really, what really did something for me, I mean, I was in tears behind that whole story, but what really did it for me was oh man, it was just the fact of how it happened, because in my past, I did a lot of home invasion robberies. And, and I think of what that could have been me, and I always say to myself, I would never do nothing to hurt nobody. I was always doing it, for just, for money or drugs, but I would never hurt nobody, but I just, but would I ever? And then that's when it really touched home to me, because it made me feel, and not only that, the party involved I knew, the person, the perpetrator I knew, and I knew him from being in prison, but anyway, it just, wow, it was a real heavy thing for me, and it made me, and I'll tell you what it did, is it made me look at how I judged my violence today. It made me look at, I remember that I always thought that if I was involved in doing what I was doing, a robbery, say, and if it was my freedom on the line or whatever, I'd do what I have to do. But now looking at her and looking at the impact that it did to her, and not just her, but her husband, and not just her husband, but her daughter, and the other people's, it made me just, oh, I was like, whoa, I'm there. And I just thought to myself, and I thank God today that I never did that. Give yourselves relief. And I'm just sitting with everything right now.
My name is Malik. I shed tears, really, because I lost a son myself, you know. It kind of hurt me, you know what I'm saying? Man. And it's sad, though, that people do stuff like that.
You can imagine the state of mind she was in walking into a scene like that. I could just, God, I just picture it and I just want to just break down. I mean, seeing a little child. I'm in here, my name is Jeff, and I'm in here for terrorist threat, and I am a violent man. And violence doesn't necessarily have to be physical, it could be verbal as well. I mean, sometimes you could say something to your mate, and it's just as damaging, and it causes a lot of problems within the whole family structure, because especially when little kids are involved, I mean, they don't know what's going on. Why is mommy crying all the time? What did daddy do? You know, and by me coming from the school of hard knocks, the streets, you don't really understand to the point where you just blow it off. Oh, it's okay to verbally abuse someone. I mean, it happens every day. And by being in this program, it's helping me understand that, you know, I put a lot of blame on other people other than myself. And I memonize, you know, my actions, you know, and this program has helped me to be accountable for my actions, you know, instead of being in denial. Oh, it's okay, I didn't put hands on her, but, you know.
Okay, and so Jeff, how has your violence impacted your victim?
She's very much afraid of me, you know, and fear is something that, you know, as a male role belief system, men, we try and be macho and act like we don't fear, like we have no fear. But I'm really understanding the type of fear that I put in her and how me overpowering her feelings and emotions, it was very much wrong of me to do that. By me being the male, you know, shut up, get it out my face, you know, and instead of me listening to her feelings and digesting them, and, you know, I pretty much brushed them off. And now I understand that, you know, emotions are very important to every human, you know. It's how you deal with your emotions is what counts, you know. And I feel shameful, I can honestly say, for being in custody, you know, for my actions. You know, I feel very hurt, and I'm sad, mainly because my marriage is probably over behind my action. And so, I look at myself as being blessed to be in this program. I never knew how to be validated for your feelings. I never knew anything about, you know, being accountable. Excuse me. No, it's just every time I hear a victim story, I just get, it lets me see that violence is wrong. And I feel bad for my violence. Thank you.
yeah, well, like I said, when I first got out, I didn't have but $40 to my name, and it was midnight, and I didn't want to go back to what I knew. I didn't want to go back, but I didn't really know nothing else. I didn't know what else to do, and I had to have something. I had to make it. So, you know, there for the first couple of days, I went back, doing what I knew best. You know, which was using and doing whatever.
A few days later, 4 or 5 days later, he had been using some stimulants and had been up for days and started to go through this whole paranoid, crisis. Where he thought like the FBI was after him and everything. He came down to where I was working, looking for help.
I forgot what day and everything. I think it was like Monday or Tuesday. I came into his office at the sheriff's department, and I had told him, you know what, man, I got to get out of this life. I just can't take it no more, and I don't want to, go to prison for life, and I don't want to, I just don't want, and I want more out of life than this.
What a significant part of his own internal process to take kind of a leap of faith that somebody will actually help if I ask for it, Because there's a lot of the male role belief system that says, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm not going to ask for help. That's the stereotype of the guy driving around in the desert with the map in his lap, and the wife saying, why don't you just pull over and ask somebody, I can find my way out here,
I don't know. I guess you could call it an epiphany, maybe. You know what I mean? I just figured that, this is not going to work no more, and that, I need to, I don't want to, I came to conclusions. I didn't want to die out there like this. I wanted to, have somewhat of a life.
Barry took advantage of the RSVP program and then went into other programs out into the streets, and he is doing an exceptional job. He is the reason I still have hope in my clients.
Jail doesn't really prepare you to be functional in the outside world because it's a totally dependent environment. Somebody tells you when to get up, somebody tells you when to change your laundry, somebody cooks your meals for you, somebody puts you to bed. So many decision-making processes are taken over for you that your own ability to make decisions becomes kind of atrophied. The first time I bought a car was like, it was a crisis. If you've been in a jail environment where everything is very close quarters and movement is so controlled, any fast, rapid movement or loud noise brings a lot of attention of control down by the administrators or the guards or whatever, So the first time that you're standing on the street and a car goes by at 35 or 40 miles an hour, it's scary. Here's 5,000 pounds of machinery going 45 miles an hour, something that you probably haven't experienced in a year or maybe several years if you've been to prison. And I think people that are in the community, don't really think about a car going by.
Man, shoot the camera there, my brother. How you doing? Thank you. That's it right there. I left the county jail. I went to San Quentin. From San Quentin, went to a place called Jamestown. I got out. I went in the hospital and had my knee surgery and stuff. I didn't tell my wife I was going in, but I woke up, there she was sitting there. And like I said, she was there every day from 9 o'clock in the morning to 10, 11 o'clock at night, all day. And it was beautiful. We got a chance to really sit back and really talk about our problems. When I look at the scar, she got a scar from here all the way down to here. Every time I look at that scar, it brings a lot of memories. And it hurts. It really hurts. That's why I'm still going to domestic violence classes now, because it's a lot of things I'm still learning. I don't have to go, but I'm going in on my own. I'm trying to be a better person toward her.
A year from now was a dream for me. It was going to be a dream. I didn't think that reality was that I was going to be clean and sober and, have, 2 vehicles, a wife, and a life. You know what I mean? To me, that was all stuff that was fairy tales. This is the first time since I was 14 years old I've been on the streets for a year. A whole calendar, you could say, and I haven't been either in custody or on the run or doing something where the cops are looking for me. this hasn't really been easy. This year it's been easy, but it hasn't been easy. It's more than I've ever, to go back and look at it and talk about it. It's really, wow. That's all I can really say is wow, because I never thought I would be here a year from now talking like this. Because I didn't know it would be a reality. Now I'm actually living a dream that I always had.
I guess, having spent like 10 years of my life in and out of jail, when I made the choice to change the way I was living and start working in violence prevention, I felt like I, had to do some restoration work in the jail. And it was a really good learning experience, but I think that after 2 years of working inside of a jail, it starts to wear you out. For me personally, I want to start working in the gay community more and start opening up my own classes with Man Alive. And whatever I got to do to be happy, that's what I got to do. If I'm going to force myself to work in a jail, what's the point? And that's what I learned in the program. In the third stage of it is that you got to create your own fulfillment. It's nobody's responsibility to empower you. People can hand you tools or information, but you've really got to take it and run.
During the daytime, I just come here, relax and just read. When I get hungry, I just go eat somewhere and then come on right back.
You think you would have gotten back together with your wife if you hadn't been in the program?
No, I don't think so.
My own recovery is just this last week, been 5 years. And some of the things that come up for me are the history of my family and the violence, my father being in prison, I went to a foster home, I got molested, several members of my family died, and when I was married, several members of my wife's family died, and I was either hooked or in jail and couldn't go to any of those, so there's a lot of stacks, a lot of different incidents of grieving that haven't happened. And I really have not totally addressed any of those issues completely. It was, let me just get these things identified and out of the way, and let me just kind of figure out how to just do basic life stuff. And then I went out into the community, and I started working, and I went to school, and so I've moved on with the main part of my life, but these things continue to be kind of there. But they're not really totally dealt with,
I still have plans of going back to school, and I want to get my, what they call a KDAC, it's a drug and alcohol certification. And I want to, but see, I want to incorporate Man Alive. I got a dream of maybe one day having a program for men getting out of prison, that incorporates not just drug and alcohol, but the Man Alive into it, and that's my dream. I don't know if I'll ever obtain it, but it's a dream, And I've obtained this one, so what I thought was a dream I've got. So I'm sure that, if I keep going towards what I'm going for, and that's what I'd like to see, because I know how it helped me so much. And I have probably 20 plus years of being in prison. And I know how Man Alive helped me so much, then I know what it could do, for other, I know what it could do for them. I know how, I got experience on how men think.
So I see a lot of people that are in my class around the city every day, and some of them are doing really bad, strung out on drugs, whatever. And most guys I see are doing pretty well, I saw a guy one night, I was going to see a punk rock band play outside of a club, and then the guy stops in mid-rap, looks at me and goes, "Aaron, oh my God," and he gave me a big hug, and he had a lot of booze on his breath. But the one thing he said to me was, I used to rob people for money, and now I'm doing my art for money. And I know I'm drinking right now, and I know you're probably upset about that. And I looked at him and I said, "Man, sure, I wish you weren't drinking as heavily as you are right now, but if you're not pulling guns on people and you're rapping for money, then I guess I feel a lot better about what I did as far as working with you, and I thought that was really cool.
So I think in general we have an enormous political problem to look at here and a responsibility. How do we pull together to develop our own creative approach to running a community that I like to talk about that is safe for us to raise children in? I think if you use that as a measure of a goal for community, a political community, it's not a bad yardstick to think about. You know, what could I do now that would contribute to the safety and nurturing of my children? What would this community have to look like, and what would I have to do on this very day to create that place that would be safe for me to raise a family?